Namaste, namaste, beautiful family of light on Facebook Live, our beautiful family who are here physically at the Cosmic Center Spiritual Light, located in Sarasota, Florida. We were just talking with Michael about the crystals that's on Siesta Key, but a lot of people don't know that Sarasota also has a Stargate. So, lots of energy in this geographical area. Um, and Also our beautiful, beautiful light workers that are on Zoom. So there's a couple of things I did want to talk about. First of all, let's put forth our intention. You know how powerful we are, and most certainly we have done this in our area when hurricanes have come into the area. We have absolutely have imprinted, engaged in the energies, and at the very minimum, we have mitigated. We want to do this for Jamaica as well. Jamaica's a little island, and it's very special to me because I have a lot of family in Jamaica, and as well as dear friends. So that's where my mother is from. That's where my father is from. So I was born here, but a strong connection to Jamaica. So if we could please put our energies into that, our intention that we're going to, Melissa, that's her name, say, Melissa, calm down. We get it. We know we got to cleanse the planet. We understand, but can we do it more offshore? Okay, so let's put forth that intention for that. So the other thing also that I just want to talk about very briefly before we get started with our transmission meditation. For those of you that may be new, you know that we are consciously aware that we do work with the ascended realms of light. We're very clear on that. Okay, what some people might call the ascended masters or the great white brotherhood. They go by many names, but these are radiant, radiant beings of light, many of which have walked on this earth, have gotten out of the matrix, and they didn't exit out. They're staying for everybody to come. So thank you so much. And I want to mention the fact too that we have a couple of announcements that I want to share, and one is we're going to be having our complete ascension manual. So for those who say, I'd like to see about maybe exiting the matrix or at least move in that direction to do that, there's many that will make it in this lifetime, and thereby as many as we can will lift up the entire planet. Okay, so others can make it. That's the whole idea, is that that's achievable in this life. It is 100%. So I didn't know that until fairly recently. Like, oh my gosh, we could really, 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 really do this. So yes, it's not like, a pipe dream. It's a real thing. So if you have an interest in this class, it's going to be facilitated by myself and Reverend Annie. And if you've been to any of Reverend Annie's Sunday services, you know how serious she is on that. Okay, but David Joshua Stone, just so you could look him up, a phenomenal, phenomenal light worker. He left, and I do say the word left, his body in his 40s. He did make the ascension, and he has left a plethora of information with him. My connection to the Arcturians and others was a lot to do with me moving into his frequency and sharing the energy that he gave so abundantly and lovingly that helped to raise my consciousness to make that contact. So I would say if anybody that has a sense that they'd like to do this, then please just go into our website and go to calendar of events. The other thing I want to mention, for those of you that are local, we're going to have our Body, Mind, and Spirit Expo. Really excited about this. Guess when that's going to be? 11/22. How auspicious is that? And just wonderful, we have access to like top-notch healers. I do mean top-notch. And also people, just powerful light workers who are very intuitive. We are very screen who comes in. It's not a whole bunch of people, but the people that you do come in are very, very high quality. Okay, so enough with the advertisement now. Let me just mention a couple of things, and I want to mention May, who I respect. She is a phenomenal astrologer. There is this, concept and thought that, once you're out of raise in vibration, these energies that come from these huge celestial bodies may not impact you. In fact, there is, as Dr. Herteka says, where astrology would no longer impact. But guess what? We're not there. We're not there. So astrology is energies, understanding it, knowing it's like having a guidebook, right? How, go to the right, watch out, there's a little step there, make a left, okay, to have you move forward with ease and grace. And one of the things, in fact, in the last live stream, May had mentioned, and she did see, she looks at the gematриas of the chart, and it showed a pentagram, which means a couple of different things. I'm not going to go into it because I don't know it to the level that May does, but it's basically saying intense, sometimes challenging times. And in fact, I did get, I've gotten a number of calls, but a call today where things suddenly change for somebody, they kind of find themselves like they're back up against the wall. There are people who are like challenges all of a sudden with their health. There are other people that are running into some dynamics with relationships. There is an intensity. I myself, I'm like super busy. I'm always busy, but I'm busier the fourth quarter of the year. We give here to the Cosmic Center. It's run by volunteers. So the way that I make an income is I do corporate and Medicare enrollment. My career background in this world has been in insurance. So there's a lot going on at the moment. And of course, we have weather issues like what's going on in Jamaica right now. There's things that, in the past, earthquakes and volcanoes, and just say there's a lot going on in this point in time. Now, there is the energetics out there we already know about. I don't need to go into a lot of decisiveness. We already know the deal, okay? And I want to remind everybody, I want to remind all light workers, that this is a program. It's a program. Because if you look at the history, it's a repeating cycle over and over again. There's a level of fear has been used, a great controlling system that I call the powers that be, that are on many different levels, on planet and also off planet. So this is when we begin to wake up. And as I had mentioned, in the Gnostic Gospels, I believe it's in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus Christ said, when you knock and you start to pull away the veils and you begin to see what's going on, you're like, kind of like shocking, okay? And we are in a world of duality. So, I mean, we know there's a gnashing of teeth and all of that. What you can do and make it your goal is to address those things that need to be healed in you, whatever trauma, okay, whatever maybe unconscious program in your personal life, okay, what may need to be resolved in your life, whether that's relationships, whether it's your own path, that each day can be a day improving over the other day. That's what I do. Little baby steps at a time. What can I do today to be a little bit better than I was, And as you do it, you begin to understand that you can hold your centeredness in the eye of the storm. Really, it is a spiritual practice, like a spiritual muscle. Okay, there are things going on right now, and with other people, I'm sure, where maybe 15, 20 years ago, you might be pulling your hair out, and you would be, oh my gosh, this, that. Nuh-uh. One of my initiations that I'm learning, okay, is non-attachment. I finally got what the Buddha was saying. It took a long time, but it finally went, now I get it. There's other things too, like as you begin on this journey, Toth and many others have talked of the good death, and I spoke about that the other day, the good death. When you have the higher understanding of things, you realize how things truly are. And I was always amazed of the Cathars. I've done a lot of that. I've talked about the Cathars, and you could go back into our YouTube and see what that's all about. But the Cathars were in France, mostly in France, and they were like the Gnostics, which was 1,000 years apart. The early Gnostics was closely after the death of Jesus the Christ. Here, 1,000 years later, is another group that says, hey, we're figuring out some stuff here. And because they were seeking ascension to be free, okay, the powers that be, which at the time was the church, and don't forget the Great Inquisition and all of that kind of stuff, was like, we want to hold the power. And that's part of the issues in this society is power. And who wants to own the power? You know, the whole idea of world domination, that has never left. That's still here. That is still here. Generation after generation, somebody wants to take over the entire world. So the bottom line in all of this stuff is that we are now waking up, okay, no longer controllable because we're beginning to see clearly, like the Cathars that said, this is not the only rodeo, and we know it. And I've also mentioned about Saint Ignatius, and he was writing his letters, you know, and he was coming to Rome. And the group of Christians that were there telling him said, "Oh, Ignatius, don't come because you know when you come to Rome, they're going to put you into the what do they call it, the lions, you know, that stadium, right? Huh? The Colosseum, thank you, the Colosseum." And you know, he wrote, and this is all things that you could check out yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. And he says, you know, that's fine, that's okay. He went with, and there was many others, there's so many that went with grace and ease, knowing that they were going to leave the physical body, but also knew and have a higher understanding, okay, that that was okay, because it's not like the end. So while we're in the body, of course, it is the sacred temple. Why? Because it holds the divine. We are not from here, we are sparks from the highest of aeons, made in the image and the similitude of the divine. So, what can we do? We can rely on that, not here. This is the duality back and forth. Okay, we already know this is the drama, this is the decisiveness, okay, and that is the what? The trap, okay. And as Mother Mary said, I need somebody to hold the polarities in balance. Who's that? Us. And we start our spiritual disciplines. Even when you get like overwhelmed or the energies are intense, what would be the first thing we could do? There's a couple of things, but breathe. Remember the breath of life. Remember prana. Remember chi. It's a real thing. You could stop whatever is causing you angst. Take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. Okay. And as you do, when you're in anxiety, okay, in chaos, your heart starts to flutter, your shoulders go up, you tense up because the adrenaline in your body is beginning to course throughout the body. Then once that happens, that's really hard to kind of bring it back in. Before that happens, you say, let me take a deep breath. Let me get back and centered. And when you do that, you know, that's when in that moment you can say, you know, I am now bringing forth my higher self or the higher celestial realms of light that I'm connected to take charge of this situation. And at that time, you'll be guided. You can say, you know, I'm going to step away from this. I'll get back to you on that. Or you may just smile and say, God bless you. Whatever it is in that moment, you're not going to be caught up into that energetic, chaotic field. In fact, what you're going to do is you're going to be the defining energy that will bring balance to that field. Have you ever had a situation where there's people all upset and then somebody walks in that are calm and says, okay, what's the problem here? And everybody calms down. In fact, I did put on Facebook, I put this beautiful meme that says, there are those people that you come into their field and like an hour later, you feel so much better. Who does that? We do, because we are remembering to hold that higher frequency of light coming from the neutral observer. Not that you don't know what's going on, but you're not engaging in its chaotic energy. That's the difference. And when you rise above that, you are giving the higher knowledge, the higher wisdom as to how to address that situation. Not only that, as you've had Jesus the Christ and great gurus, they hold Shakti. You can change the entire environment. And what if there's more than one? What if there's two and three and four that come together? And that's what we do. That's what we do. So I just want to remind everybody, okay, as we're going through some of these turbulent times, remember the sacred breath. Remember that you are never alone, that you work and are surrounded by beings of radiant light. Just because you don't necessarily see them doesn't mean they're not there. Can you see a gamma ray? Can you see a microwave? No. Do they exist? Yes. And then you'll know the little codes that come in and the telepathic or the impressions and so forth. And as you continue to work on that, that's the key. Work on that. Everybody here, especially now, every day should have a spiritual um, uh, program or ritual that they do for their divine protection and for their divine guidance. However, that works for you every day. Just like how you will work out your biceps every day, you're going to do that every day. Guess what? You will just be a natural part, and you'll see that you can, no matter what's going on out there, that you can walk a life of ease and grace because nothing is going to rattle your cage. I don't allow it. And it is important to hold your space, and you will learn divine discernment. You will learn to breathe. You will know to surrender to the higher parts of yourself, to be open to the guidance. And I don't care what's going on, you'll be able to get to the other side of it and be an example to others. With that, I'm going to say namaste to our beautiful family of light on Facebook Live, and we will see you next time.